I must now go a long way. I must face a fight that I have not faced before, and I must go on a road that I do not know. Gilgamesh, Tablet 3, 2100 BC. It was the third flight of the day, and the adrenaline was still pumping. My radio crackled to life as I restocked our supplies, signaling a new call. I raced inside with the enthusiasm of a child, eager for the next adventure. A sense of dread quickly washed over me. A familiar pit settled in my stomach as I listened to the ER physician's urgent plea. A 6-year-old child had wandered away from the family farm, a solitary figure on a remote gravel road. His father, searching for him at dusk, found a single shoe. Panic set in as he realized his son was likely injured. He found the boy in the ditch, battered, bruised, bloody, and unconscious. The local ambulance crews rushed the child to the emergency department. His airway was secured, IVs were inserted, and fluids were administered. The child's size and the critical nature of his injuries compounded the difficulty of the situation. His tiny body was no match for whatever had struck him. As we landed and exited the aircraft, the paramedic and I exchanged a knowing glance. We had dealt with critical children before, but this case felt different. The somber atmosphere in the emergency department spoke volumes. The child's condition had deteriorated rapidly since the initial call. The endotracheal tube was leaking, blood bubbling from his mouth. The parents were at the bedside, sobbing, the father's pleas echoing through the room. As our team began to assist, I couldn't help but feel a pang of empathy. My own child, just a few months old, was a constant reminder of the fragility of life. The father's plea, "My big boy, don't leave me," struck a chord deep within me. Intense focus was required to stay on task and push aside the emotions that threatened to overwhelm me. The child needed a larger endotracheal tube, the current one leaking and failing to deliver adequate oxygen. I took control of the airway, preparing to secure it with a better fit. The injuries were horrific. A pool of blood met my gaze as I peered into the throat with the laryngoscope. The normal landmarks were obscured. With a nod to the paramedic and a silent prayer, I pulled the tube and deftly slid in the larger one. As we prepared to transfer the child to our stretcher, he flatlined. The local physician began CPR, desperate to revive him. The statistics for cardiac arrest from trauma were bleak, but we never gave up on a child. Every bit of technology, medication, knowledge, and skill was thrown into the arena, a glimmer of hope fueling our efforts. Everyone watched, clinging to the possibility of a miracle. After several rounds of epinephrine and CPR, the inevitable truth became clear. I asked the social worker to bring in the grandparents, who wanted to be with their grandson. I stepped away from the bedside, as did many of the other staff, except for the physician, who was still performing chest compressions, and the respiratory therapist, who was valiantly pushing oxygen into the child's tiny lungs. The family gathered around the bedside, their hands resting on their child. The father's final words echoed through the room. As I called the time of death, he whispered, "My big boy, I'll always love you, forever." And with that, he leaned down and kissed his child goodbye.